Hello and welcome to The Hill is Always Greener, a show where a bunch of old nerds take you back in time to reminisce about the glory days of one Sonic the Hedgehog. I am CyberLink.
I'm GameBuddy.
I'm Faulerro.
And I'm RockTheJake.
Cool, we did it. Good job, everyone.
All right, see y'all next time.
Cool. And this week, we are finally doing it, folks. We are finally covering episodes of the Saturday morning Sonic show, SatAM, as the kids call it.
Yeah, they shouldn't. ABC's Sonic the Hedgehog, whatever you want to call it, the other Sonic show, the other Sonic cartoon that aired. Did it air at the same time as AOSTH? Because I know one was.
Oh yeah, it was definitely simultaneous.
Right, yeah, so just on different channels. One was syndicated, one wasn't. Yeah.
It was Adventures, when it first aired, was 4 or 5 days, weekdays, and then yep. Sonic the Hedgehog was Saturday mornings, hence SatAM.
You think for a show that they only put on like once a week, they would have time to really make it like the highest quality Sonic show, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think I said this when we revisited Adventures, that it is doing its best with the budget they have, including adding funny sound effects to obvious animation errors to kind of smooth things over.
It's a different cartoon than the last one we talked about, I have to say. Considerably so. Same Sonic. Well, not the same Sonic. Same Sonic voice actor. Similar design. And that's about where the similarities end, I suppose.
Well, also the same raging heterosexuality.
Well, yes.
Yes.
Just in a whole different, exciting way. Kind of.
Yeah, I guess I kind of forgot that SatAM Sonic's big thing is that he usually has Sally Acorn there to play against. And so SatAM Sonic is, I wouldn't call him stupid, but he has a very different personality from her. And so he does come across, Adventure Sonic is basically Bugs Bunny, so he has to be mostly on the ball all the time and like figure things out, mostly for Tails. But yeah, SatAM Sonic gets to be a little more like headstrong and not as illogical as Sally is. And at their best, I think it works really well that she picks up on things that Sonic misses. And at their worst, like, she is just like the girl character that gets to talk about what a silly goose Sonic is. And but thankfully that there are a lot of good moments in these episodes in particular.
Yeah, you have to sort of look past Sally rolling her eyes and being like, "You are impossible." Cue audio, cue laugh track, which isn't actually there, but you hear it in your head.
Yeah, I feel the one that sticks out on my mind, because again, it was on one of the episodes I had on VHS, was the exchange where she's like,
"Will you be serious for a minute?
30 seconds is my limit.
One day you'll learn that speed is no substitute for common sense.
Time's up."
And then literally like taps his foot looking at his watch, and while she's berating him, and I'm like, okay, we get it. Boys and girls are different in the 90s.
Men are from Mars, women are from Mobius, you know how it goes.
Yeah.
We're not gonna dunk on SatAM the whole time. By the way, we're just I don't know if we've like made hints towards it in previous episodes, but we tend to lean a bit more towards Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog when it comes to our specifically 90s Deke Sonic cartoon series.
Yeah, and it's not to say that we dislike the Saturday morning show or think it's a bad show. Far from it. It's just that we skew a little more adventure-y in terms of personal taste.
Yeah, I think we kind of made it clear when we revisited Adventures that, like, Adventures, you know what you're getting. Like, it's very silly. You know that it is going to be, again, like, you're going to get some kick-ass John Baldry, regardless of what you tune into. Yep. That absolutely does not take itself seriously. There's almost no continuity. And SatAM is kind of the opposite, to where there is some self-seriousness all over this, mixed in with the comedy. And that I know there's recently been kind of a resurgence of tracing everything back to like Joss Whedon dialogue, but I think this predates this. This is more just like comic book, Saturday morning kids, like obviously written at a kid's level, but meant to be like adults having conversation, like quipping back and forth. It's not bad. It's just lots of kids shows were like this. And like the writers that worked on this also worked on other shows at the time, like Real Ghostbusters, Street Sharks, Ninja Turtles, basically that ilk where everybody kind of talks like this. And it's not bad. It's very of its time.
You definitely get the vibe of, yep, this is a 90s cartoon, the moment it loads up. And, once you've got to keep that in mind. You've got to have, like, that mindset of, cartoons hadn't quite got to the point where they were, I don't know how to say that, but better than this, because I feel like cartoons have come a long way since this sort of stuff. Not just in terms of like, do they look good? Is the animation better? But just in the general sense of writing, this is a script of its time. It's not, but it was like, I feel like it was written well sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, it is still a step above the like hyper toyetic scripts of like a lot of those 80s cartoons.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? That's actually a good point about this. Is it isn't like okay, here's Sonic, here's all the Sonic Bible things that you need to know, make a show out of it. This was very much like to both its benefit and detriment. The creators of the show were given Sonic the Hedgehog, looked at it and were like, well, I don't know what we do with this, so let's make our own thing. And that's essentially what this is.
Yeah.
And it didn't have to worry about, like, also you have to cram in this week's new toy releases in this particular episode. Yeah. Here's what you've got to work with. Do it or else.
They had a surprising amount of freedom. As a result, this is like a Sonic show that stands out on its own and maybe doesn't feel all that Sonic-y, but it is, it's unique. They clearly had a lot of creative control. Imagine having that in a Sonic media product these days.
Yeah, it really is like it is the opposite end of the spectrum compared to like today, which again is not. I am not making any judgments on like whether that's good or bad. It's just different now. But yeah, I do definitely at the top want to acknowledge that like Lynn Jansen, who is the credited story editor for these episodes, he is also like I think you would consider like the series creator of SatAM, who wrote specifically the show Bible for this, like not the other Sonic Bibles we've already talked about, but like established like Knothole and like Robotropolis, stuff that would go on to be picked up by like the Archie comics and fleshed out even more then, but like he established that. And these were both written by Ben Hurst, which is also like a name that pops up all over SatAM, and I think he is rightfully so like the guy who did like the story heavy episodes that flowed into each other. And there's also lots of very, very good interviews with him before he sadly passed away about how he and his writing partners also tried to do that with the next Sonic show, Sonic Underground, and they basically just couldn't do the same thing. But I do feel comfortable saying that like Ben Hurst and his writing partner, Pat Ali, produce like all of the episodes of SatAM that I look back on and remember as being like, oh yeah, those were really good. It usually ends up being them. And so I think that's why these episodes end up being like super solid.
I think it is interesting that this is a writing duo of a male writer and a female writer working with a show that has, let's be honest, it's Sonic the Hedgehog in name only because this is the Sonic and Sally show, more often than not, and it has a male and female lead, and I don't know if that really had any like bearing on the writing process, but I think it does add something. I don't know. Maybe that's just me over extrapolating from that. But I just like the thought that this is two different people working together to essentially forge this unique show with two unique leads.
Yeah, and I'm thinking about at the time, like I've already mentioned, like your Ninja Turtles and like all your Ninja Turtles spin-offs and other stuff. Like it was usually much more like off balance as far as like, Ninja Turtles. It's like, it's the Turtles and then April, the one girl, or it's, and like still there's a pretty even balance, but no, Sally is the co-protagonist of this show. Like she shows up in just as much as episodes as Sonic does, and everybody else is like a secondary character, thinking of like Bunny, Antoine, Rotor.
And then you have a tertiary character like, what was his name again? Tails, I think.
Yeah, man, tertiary. I mean, even farther down the ladder rungs is because this was definitely the era of it works more in adventures where, yeah, he's Sonic's little bro and they're hanging out. But in SatAM, like, no, he's a little kid. He's not going to be going on, eco-terrorist missions with the rest of the crew.
Just a baby.
I mean, I remember Tails gets maybe a couple of episodes where he's doing like fun things around Knothole, but he's very much on the back burner in this series.
And he would have had a more significant role in season 3 if that ever happened, apparently, but alas, what could have been.
We could probably do a whole thing on that, but not today, that's for sure.
Another topic for another day.
Yes. Well, I do want to say at the top that booting these episodes up is that this theme song blows my dick clean off.
Yeah.
Sonic, he can really move. Sonic, he's got an attitude. Sonic, he's the fastest thing alive. He's the fastest thing alive. He's the fastest thing alive.
It's still really good.
It is, yes.
Unironically, I think it's awesome still. Like, people pass around like the Sonic Underground intro, like, oh, it's so funny how hard this goes. I'm like, nope, SatAM, that intro, I love it. It's great.
Yes.
I think it's it sets the scene remarkably well. Like, it's a hard rocking song, kind of. Yeah, there's a lot of synth going on, but there's plenty of guitar behind there, and you got the metal vocals. Who is it who's singing the song again?
Yeah, I think it's Noisy Neighbors is the name that I see for like the instrumentation, and it's Michael. Noisy Neighbors is the band, and it was composed by Michael Tavera, I believe.
Because I know there are 2 variations. One's got but is it the same vocalist on each one? Well, whatever.
There was that leak. I say a few years ago. I think it was closer to 10 of like a bunch of proto SatAM music from the composer, which is super cool.
Way past cool. I love that song, but this is the one though, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, because while it is like pretty hot, it's pretty heavy. I'd say heavy. It's a cool sounding song, but it's also got this weird melancholy to it and a feeling of danger. I don't know how you describe that in musical terms. Hey, Jake, you're a good useful person to have here.
It definitely, like, the melody and the lyrics, and especially the vocals by, you said it was Michael, what was his name?
Michael Tavera.
Tavera. He composed it, but I think Noisy Neighbors is the band that I see that performed it. I'm not sure if that was like a real band or like just the name of this studio folks, but
yeah. But it's just such a great theme song. Like, like I just said, like the melody and the lyrics are just, they soar, they elevate. And even later on in the song, there's like a key change that like key changes usually help with like a sense of like expectancy or a sense of like bringing up even more excitement. And usually they happen, not always, of course, but usually they happen later on in a song to like kind of be that final capstone before the song is over. And with how dramatic the show can get, we've all said it already, this is a very fitting theme for the show. And man, like I love it. Not even like the whole unironic sense. Like I just straight up love it. Like this is such a good song. Not even just for a good song, but just for a theme, for just a song itself. I love it.
I think you're right. It starts off on like that sort of minor key almost, dun, 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 as Sonic is like running through and Mobotropolis is being transformed into Robotropolis.
Yep.
But then it starts becoming heroic again, and as Sonic fights back against the Robotnik. The Robotnik? Yeah. Against Robotnik.
The Robotnik.
He is the Robotnik of the show.
Yes.
I like it's interesting because I feel I really like how Sonic's speed has its own sound in this show too, just to bring up talking about the intro because it's in there. Like he has a sonic boom, he breaks the sound barrier because he's rushing into Mobotropolis. But I love, and especially because we had to look up the sound effects for Adventures of Sonic, because I used a couple in our Champions comic book dramatized things. But I like that Sonic has his own soundtrack, or he has his own soundscape for his speed in this one too, and it's pretty cool. Like it's hard to describe, but yeah, it's lots of like heavy revving up like an engine and lots of stuff like that. But
what, the big like when he zooms out, that's like a jet engine, right? That
yeah. And lots of buzzsaws thrown in there for his spin attacks.
Yep.
But the intro itself is super good at just like showing. I love a good intro that really does like set the tone for like the whole show. Like if you showed someone this who had never seen it before, I think that they would get a sense of like, okay, Sonic is like, he is the team A, he's always forward leading the way, but everybody else has their own like unique things. Like I think, Sally gets like the cool moments setting up stuff in the intro. Even Bunny is there. Like she tears off the grate with a robot arm, and man, it's just, it's good stuff. And it's, it's also one of those where they poured money into it to make sure it looks super good.
That's how it always is for 90s cartoons.
Yep.
Can I just, something Jackie pointed out for me, by the way, while we were watching, is it you see like one of the, I almost said Robian using Archie terms, but the roboticized Mobian, like walking around like Frankenstein's monster, and then it cuts to a close shot of a robot arm, and that's Bunny, and you're like, oh wait, that's actually not, that's someone who's partly roboticized, so that gets that point across really easily.
Yes.
Yep. I definitely, looking back on this show and, even thinking of like Archie comics, like Bunny is one of my favorite characters now. Like knowing where she went in the Archie comics, she's just a cool character. It would have been so easy. I mean, look, like they made the best of it in later Archie, where her and Antoine like end up together, and like they bring out better things in his character. But she could have been such a one note like stereotype of a hick cowboy.
I'm Southern.
Yes, but no, the fact that they made her like, yes, she is partially roboticized, and that is both and I think the show, even the show gets into it, that it is both a strength and a thing of contention, because she is different, and it could even be seen as like a disability in some contexts. And Bunny's just cool as hell, and she only gets one line in the show, but it really did make me miss Christine Cavanaugh as well. Just what a powerhouse actor she was, able to craft characters with such a unique tone that stood out. And Bunny rules.
Yeah, I'm glad you got the Bunny stuff out of the way, because we're not going to have much chance to talk about her.
No, someday we'll have to. Maybe we'll do a whole episode on how cool Bunny is. But
before we get off the opening sequence, I just want to point out I'm not even sure if it's a criticism. The lyrics are great. They sound awesome. They tell you exactly who Sonic is. They don't really tell you anything else about the show. That's illustrated through the opening sequence but the song is just about Sonic. He's really cool. Sonic. There's Sonic. But the show is only halfway about Sonic, to be fair.
Yeah.
Now, granted, if they went out of their way to over-explain it, we would have like a Sonic Underground situation. Imagine that version of the song. Robotnik took over Mobotropolis. It really sucked. Now everybody is a robot. Oh, holy crap. Sonic and Sally too. Antoine and Bunny.
It's gonna end on an unresolved cliffhanger.
You get to watch them kiss, and it's really fucking weird. But that's spoilers, by the way.
Who the heck is Nagas?
Did we actually talk about what episodes, by the way? Did we actually say what episodes we're covering?
Have not.
No.
We alluded to it, we have not.
Well, we did the intro first, and then you get to find out what the episode is. That's the way it works on these cartoons.
The not Back to the Future theme.
Yeah. Which is very fitting considering.
This is we're covering another story arc, by the way, just like we did with Adventures of Sonic Hedgehog. This is Blast to the Past, parts 1 and 2. A time travel story again.
Yeah.
Because we can't escape.
From crossing fate.
This is during the second season where the episode titles were that they actually reflected what was going on in the episode, which I'm thankful for. So we're able to sort through a little more. Because, like, early on, you were dealing with stuff like Sonic and Sally, Turbo Sonic, Super Sonic. Is Super Sonic in it? No.
Big disappointment.
Unfortunately. Yeah, I immediately remember thinking that this is also where they started to use a different font.
Oh.
And I don't know if I cared that much as a kid, but rewatching them, I'm like, oh, that's weird.
Look, I think it's like a little fancier than the usual one.
Little bit.
What do they call that font? I don't know, but it was a lot more like, I wouldn't say impact font originally.
Sonic Blast font.
It does look like the original one does look like an italicized impact or even maybe like a modified like Sonic logo.
It's a little scripty, like it's almost like from a scroll. That's the vibe I get from it. So when I was watching as a kid, I was like, "Ooh, this seems fancy. Are they going to get into some ancient mysticism or something?" That was my immediate 10-year-old reaction to this. I think
it's not quite papyrus, but it's in the same family.
Yeah.
We already mentioned these are both written by Ben Hurst, and the first episode opens up with it's Sonic, Sally, and is Dulcet already there?
Oh, it opens up on Sonic, Sally, and the two their friends Cannon and Fodder.
Oh, that's
For a
right.
second
Sorry.
there, I thought you were being serious.
Their friends Nuts and Bolts.
Yeah, these poor bastards.
These
I appreciate
these red shirts that show up.
Yep.
There's a horse and a bear, and they're just there.
Yeah, I was about to say I appreciate their designs are cool. They fit right in. But yeah, we were talking in the pre-show that I have another episode I remember. It's the one with Cat, who's like an older freedom fighter who basically like gets caught halfway through the episode, and like Sonic doesn't rescue him, and you don't even see if he gets roboticized. It's just like, oh man, Sonic was too late, which is a thing that immediately stood out revisiting these is that Sonic is definitely like, he is always the front runner. He is the main offense guy. He is distracting the patrolling robots. He is kicking ass and taking names, but he's not invincible. And like, he fails a lot in this show because Robotnik is such a, like, he is already, again, he has already taken over Mobius. Like, this isn't a, he is not in the process. He has completely like dominated most of this world, and so
Sonic's already won essentially.
Yes, which I mean, these episodes deal with that a lot, but I appreciated that, and I think that was part of like the SatAM lore Bible is that the heroes have both wins and losses, and that's pretty cool. That Sonic is like, he is super fast. He's got his spin attacks, but like he can't just. I want to say up front that these episodes ironically literally have Sonic talking about, why don't we just take out Robotnik once and for all? I wish we could have done that back before he even did this. And like, Sonic can't just do that. He can't just zoom straight to Robotnik's headquarters and take him out because he'll get caught, and he's no good to anybody if he gets roboticized.
That's what's interesting. You did mention that this guy can get caught. Like Sonic, like at one point Sonic gets caught, and he doesn't like spin attack his way out of it. Now, if this was Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog Sonic, he would probably put on some sort of disguise and get out of there. He'd probably like put on a mechanic's outfit and be like, I'm here to fix a couple of faulty robots, yeah! And he'd pull out a giant wrench and then, I don't know. It would be something like that. He would get away because AOSTH Sonic, as you mentioned, is Bugs Bunny, prepared for any and all circumstances. Not this guy.
Let's not forget that like AOSTH Sonic also had like probably the best and most hilarious getaway ever of just saying I'm over there and then running away the different direction.
The first episode, man.
Yeah.
I'm over there.
Good stuff. that's exactly how it says. How he says it too. Oh my goodness. Yep. But like a lot of episodes, this one opens up where Sonic, Sally, our aforementioned cannon fodder, and a couple other freedom fighters are doing this is also like, I kind of love this era of cartoons. Like, I'm sure we'll bring up Captain Planet again later once we get into Robotnik, but where the fact that on the surface, because Robotnik is the bad guy who loves polluting and corrupting nature, that the freedom fighters get to be straight up eco-terrorists. Yeah. They are doing a hit on a power generator in Robotropolis, trying to take out part of Robotnik's grid. And that is fucking rad, dude. Like, Sally sets up a zip line for these two guys to go over and set the bomb, and then they basically accomplish that part because one of the the lights flicker off, but then they're not coming back across the zip line, and unfortunately Sally sees through her binoculars that they have been picked up by the SWAT bot patrols.
Oh no, our poor nameless guys with no lines. We're going to miss them.
No lines, no name. Like I said, they might as well just be the poor bastards.
Yeah.
Chris, after you told us about like what you found out about what the show defines as roboticization, like understanding that, even though these guys are cannon fodder, I still actually kind of feel a little bit bad for them because, like, geez.
I mean, like, you can't help but be a little compassionate, even if you have no idea who these guys are.
But just to reiterate, that is an anecdote from Ben Hurst, the writer, who said that robotization is just on the outside, and that basically you are imprisoned within the robot shell, still like flesh and blood, mind and body, and it's like horrible existential
body horror.
So yeah, just think of that when, later you get like, oh, the cute doggy gets roboticized and looks like one of those toys from the 90s that he is screaming internally for the rest of his days.
I'm getting serious, like Pokemon or Pokemon know that they're like in a box or in a ball vibes from
Oh yeah, dark Pokemon, fighting animals. Yeah. Real grim dark stuff. But this is one of the things I mentioned where Sonic immediately takes after, seeing if he can intercept the robots who have his friends, and he just comes up. He gets the door shut in his face, and they do a real good job of it's like a 3 to 4 foot like steel thick door that like Sonic could not just bust through.
Yeah, and
He tells Sally he's going to meet him back up at the rendezvous point, and this is where Bunny gets her one line, and he says that like he wasn't fast enough and is real like broken up about it. And this is also where like he throws his fist to the sky.
One day, Robotnik, you're going down, man, big time.
Which a lot of these is like, yeah, you can't even say like destroy, let alone kill in this cartoon. But that's basically what Sonic is saying, is that, I'll get you son of a bitch.
I have a gun.
So this is where Dulcet comes in. Dulcet is, well, she's a big green dragon. She is voiced by the legendary and excellent Cree Summer.
Woo!
But she never has much to do in this show, or even the Archie comics. Like, man, you want to talk about some of the lowest points in Archie comics, look up the Dulcet storylines. Woof, we won't get into it here. But she is the one who Sonic and Sally are talking about how, Sonic is very distraught and angry about how, if only they could have stopped Robotnik back when he first took power over the kingdom that Sally's father ran, who, I think he is just known as the King in SatAM. He would not get a name until the Archie comics. And Sally is like, well, we were only like 5 years old at the time, Sonic. And he's like, yeah, we were cool, though.
We were cool.
coulda handled it. It's very silly.
We were radical.
And then Dulcie just casually mentions that, well, why don't you guys use the time stones on the floating island?
Yeah.
And my eyeballs shot out of my head because I
Sorry,
forgot.
is that something from the games you're mentioning on this show?
Well,
Cannot believe it. But yes.
kinda, sorta,
Sort
not
of.
really once we get to it.
It sounds like it, even if you're like, well, time stones are on Little Planet, not on Floating Island, but I'll take what I can get at this point.
Yes. I think this might be after, chronologically, the aforementioned Spinball episode of SatAM 2.
Yeah.
It still cracks me up to think, wow, the most adaptations in any Sonic media is Sonic Spinball.
Yeah.
Oh, but yeah, hearing those names in this show, I completely forgot, really took me by surprise. And yeah, since we've already mentioned some voice actors, that Jaleel White and Kat Suse as Sonic and Sally really do play off each other well.
Extremely.
And if I remember correctly, I think Jaleel recorded a lot of his stuff alone. I don't know if there was prelay, but it just really is a testament to also how well these are voice directed, which I think most of the series was Jenny McSwain, who, gosh, I can't even begin to list the credits she has for voice direction. It is literally hundreds.
Yeah.
But I remember thinking that on paper, reading just these scripts without any performance, a lot of this dialogue seems very of its time, very silly, and might land flat. But because of the direction and cast, it really still holds up fairly well. And I remember seeing that Jenny McSwain was also the director for the original Resident Evil 4. And if you remember the dialogue from that game, it is like the pitch perfect, silly action movie. Oh, it's just so good. So
Yeah.
I definitely think that is owed to just the expertise of her in this cast. So I definitely want to point that out when we get to it.
Yeah.
For sure.
Whenever we can.
I want to give further props to Jaleel White, because I remember some years ago watching an interview of him talking about how he developed the voice for Sonic when he did the voice for the different cartoons. And the thing that stood out most was that he said, if I remember right, he said that he wanted to develop a voice that wasn't specifically recognizable for any particular race or particular ethnicity. He wanted Sonic to, if I remember right, he said that he wanted kids to listen to Sonic and feel like they could be Sonic based on just how he sounded alone. And I think that really comes across in just all the different cartoons that Jaleel White voiced Sonic as.
For sure.
Yeah. I have a much bigger appreciation for his performance now, just looking back at like the cultural impact and how specifically like American like counterculture at the time would have very much fit right along with like that like you said, that voice that he developed. And I think it's super cool. I remember I was finally watching the last few episodes of the 2017 reboot of DuckTales, and Jaleel pops up as the genie character in a couple episodes.
Yep. Shabooey.
And it was so interesting that, because he has, I mean, you know, we've already mentioned Sonic Underground, where he reprises his role as Sonic, and he has done some fan things where it just doesn't sound the same, but the voice that he uses as in DuckTales sounds much more like a modern adult version of his Sonic voice. And, you know, I'm just saying that, like, you know, if the stars ever aligned and there was something that he could come back as Sonic, that I think he could sound pretty good. But yeah, like you said, I appreciate it so much more now, looking back on just everything, and not just because let me tell you, I didn't watch Family Matters, so I didn't know it was Urkel.
Oh, wow.
I just read his name in the credits, and so yeah, that was never like a weird contradiction that like the nerdiest character on television at the time was also like the cool Sonic the Hedgehog.
I watched a ton of Family Matters growing up, and so when I found out like later on that it was Jaleel White as Sonic, I was like, That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, I guess, yeah, it's closer to, what is it? Stefan Urkel in Family Matters.
Yeah.
The cool Urkel.
But just like a little bit more nasally too.
Yeah, yeah.
It's that's one of those few 90s American sitcoms that we didn't have over here, so my only context was Sonic the Hedgehog at the time.
Wow, okay. So Sonic and Sally hop on Dulcie's back, because she is a flying dragon, to go looking for the floating island. And we just basically cut to there are surrounded by a whole bunch of clouds. And this is what I was talking about, to where like this dialogue plane comes off real stilted and silly, but because it's Katsusi and Cree Summer, it's actually a really funny line where Sally's kind of chastising her.
What do you think, Dulce?
We're real close now. I can feel it. You've said that 20 times today. I saw it. You've said that 20 times too. So sue me, now it's 21.
And it's especially because it's Cree Summer, just like she just has like the perfect amount of sass when she says it.
Yeah.
Oh yes, like the masters of their craft already.
Absolutely. They crash land and Dulcie is just beat from this, so she decides to take a nap by by hanging upside down in a tree like a bat, which I enjoy very much.
It's a very good image.
It's pretty cute. I do like that little bit that this is. Well, I was going to say fire-breathing dragons, but then it seems like the only thing the dragons do is inhale a bunch of air and then blow it out. I wonder if that was was that a standards and practices thing? Fire would be too violent. Who knows?
We'll
can only have so
consult
much
the rest
fire.
of the show to see if there are any fire-breathing dragons, or whether it's just a Dulcie's family thing.
Yeah, because her mom does it later.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, I do. I like that little. Yeah, you said a bat. Also, like I thought possum.
Oh yeah.
hanging from her tail upside down. But yeah, we do immediately see that this floating island is unfortunately not the Angel Island from the games, but kind of a weird fantasy temple with these admittingly cool looking gargoyle guard dogs.
Yeah.
This is like more of a Temple of the Ancients than a hidden palace, you know.
Yeah.
I quite like it, actually. It's an interesting design.
I think this is where we get our first built-in commercial break, because the gargoyles hop off their platforms and start chasing Sonic and Sally, and the only thing Sonic can think to do is run straight off the island, because the gargoyles can't leave the island and like kind of pop out of existence, probably back to their pedestals, and then leave Sonic and Sally just falling to their deaths. And we get a fade out to black as Sonic is whistling and Sally is screaming at the top of her lungs.
Very good, actually.
Understandably so.
Oh boy.
And she has like a sarcastic line of
Oh, why didn't I think of this?
We'll be cool, Sal. Trust me.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a couple of these moments where she assumes Sonic has a follow-up plan and he's like, nope, I got nothing. God, remember back in the day when your commercial breaks for cartoons were guaranteed to be like less than 2 minutes, no more than 3 or 4 commercials? Wow. But anyway, we fade back in and Dulcie hears Sonic's whistles and comes in and rescues them, which very good. I also like that it is made very clear that Sonic wasn't sure if that would work or not. But Dulcie makes another crash landing on the island and bucks off Sonic and Sally straight into the heart of this temple. I feel like this was another cartoon thing where the easiest, like, whoa, this place is weird, is just to do MC Escher stairs.
Yeah.
It's either MC Escher stairs or like Salvador Dali melting clocks, you know?
Yeah.
Yes.
I am very surprised they didn't go with the melting clocks, honestly.
oh, that
Yeah,
might be
all
so
things
fitting.
considered.
Given the time, yeah.
But actually, I'm as we're doing the podcast, I'm also like going through parts of the episode just to make sure I'm refreshed. And there is actually a part around 9.5 minutes in where well, without commercials, where there's at least one melted clock. So at least they get that in. But
Okay.
But yeah, like for the most part,
Well, good for them.
They do the stairs.
Glad they hit both of those points.
They hit both of them. Yep, I remember lots of cartoons of the time doing like, well, we need a weird reference, for weird art, and it was like you said, either Escher or Dolly, which, hey, get a little culture for the kids.
Yeah. There you go.
But yes, we get a pretty short sequence of their going. God, maybe it was just me at the time, but the pretty technically competent camera rotation here as they take the stairs, but made me a little dizzy trying to follow it. But they make it to the center of this place and find the keeper of the time stones, who is a very well drawn, I want to say a bard owl, maybe floating head.
Yeah, it's another owl.
Oh yeah.
Also, did you notice that it ran on a checkerboard pattern? I know it's probably not. It's anything that reminds me of the games in SatAM throws me for a loop.
I assumed it was like loosely based on like a special stage or something.
Perhaps, or maybe it's just, I don't know, probably a coincidence.
Yeah.
I hate to assume that. I hate to assume like anything that's related to the games is just a coincidence, but
it would be fitting to put this floating head of a barred owl guy in a special zone.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is where our first character voice by Tim Curry. It's this guy.
I am keeper of the time stones. To use them, you must solve this riddle.
And he is the Tim Curryest Tim Curry to ever Tim Curry.
Oh,
that's how you draw the distinction between the roles. Let's have him just go full ham for this one.
Yep. Legit, I was pumping my fist in the air because we got some good Tim Curry, which is interesting because I guess he is only listed in the credits under additional voices, and I guess he wouldn't be that big of a voiceover guy until I guess maybe the Nicktoons era where he pops up in Wild Thornberries and a bunch of other stuff. But man, just an incomparable voice. Like there is almost nobody who can do a Tim Curry like Tim Curry, and so I'll take it anytime I can get it. Even if it's like his one-off character in Home Alone 2 talking about a cheese pizza.
Or the only place not infected by capitalism, Sprace.
Yep. Oh man. But he, so this guy's whole deal is he is basically, he gives a riddle of the Sphinx before Sonic and Sally can be worthy of using the time stones. And this, I think, is, like I mentioned up top, is a really good contrast between Sonic and Sally's personalities, where it's not just, oh, Sonic dumb, Sally smart.
When long, I bring boredom. When short, I bring fear. What am I?
Well, that's easy. Antoine. I run and run, but cannot flee. Watched yet never see.
Who can understand this guy? He talks in riddles.
The answer is time.
Correct.
Sonic is completely uninterested in this riddle, does not want to actually try and figure it out because it's not something active. It's not something he can solve with his physical abilities. And Sally is much more, she is the plan maker. And earlier she even blames herself for getting their friends roboticized because it was her job to come up with the plan. And I think this is a really solid moment. And I think, like you already said, it's simple enough to where maybe the target audience of kids could get it too. And like I said, if I had figured it out as a kid, I would have felt so special because I was like, wow, I figured it out at the same time Sally did. And
foolish mortals, what is the answer to this mystery puzzle to find the secret time stones? Is it time? Oh my god, how did you work it out?
What is black and white and red all over?
That's right, Shadow the Hedgehog.
Wait, no, you're not supposed to know that yet.
Sorry, time is all over me. Oh no. Oh, I feel so bad for you. Oh, the things I've seen.
Time is a Mobian construct.
Tommy the f***ing Tunnel is in your future.
Don't worry, he dies.
Oh, well, thank goodness.
I want to say the timekeeper is or the time owl. Is it timekeeper? Is that his name?
Who cares? It's Tim Curry.
He should be the timekeeper, to be honest.
Curry.
That's very good.
Time Curry said. Time Curry, I got to give props to the character for being very, very generous and patient with the answer. Because like my thought during the whole time, because like while he's doing the riddle, he has like basically like 3 sentences of this riddle, and like after each sentence, I was just like, duh, and then
yeah, he just gives these terrible answers,
and then and if I was like if any other media handled it, it would have been like. Sonic would go, duh, and she's like, oh, no, you're done. Episode over.
No, he's just like, I am going to ignore that.
Oh, he's a silly boy. Forget him.
He's not taking the assignment seriously.
I do really like his design to bring it all back to 90s cartoons. He's like a combination of the owl who is like kind of a villain in Once Upon a Forest, which is a little talking animal movie from around that time, but also Nicodemus from Secret of Nim.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, again with our dumb bluff. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. But I think it's,
I was thinking Virgil from Mighty Max, personally.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that works too.
I was just thinking that this owl looks terrifying.
He's pretty scary. He's a big floating head. Like I said, very detailed in the animation. Like you can tell it's a barred owl because they went out of their way to like color the feathers in and everything. But so yeah, Sally comes up with the answer. What the hell are these? Like, is this even like multiple stones? It looks more like a mask.
Yeah.
To me.
Yeah.
It's like 2 pieces of a mask that you slot together, and it looks like an owl. Actually, looks a bit like an owl's face. No, I look at it.
Yeah,
a little bit.
Yeah. It's
yeah.
Well, I mean,
handles, little convenient handles.
It's made of stone, so by a technicality.
Yeah. I do wonder if, like, again, they were just picking terms from whatever games that were out there, because, oh boy. Yep, definitely not magical jewels like the ones from Sonic CD. This very silly moment is that they both, Sonic and Sally, put hands on this thing and say, okay, we need to concentrate on where we want to go. And then straight up drop, like, the exact year.
Yeah, what the fuck?
Yeah.
What was it
Yeah.
again?
3224.
3224.
I made a note.
That gives us that, Archie style vibe of, post apocalypse Earth.
See, here's the thing. That was supposedly going to be the backstory. Like, maybe. Ben Hurst had said, like, at some point, since they were given no actual backstory, their whole backstory they came up with for Robotnik and Snively, or Julian and Snively, or whatever, is that they were basically they were astronauts from the year 2200 or thereabouts, and they had like attempted to take over the space colony they were on, but things went out of control, and they escaped. But because of relativity when traveling through space, they end up in the future after nuclear annihilation has wiped out all of humanity, and the animals have evolved in the thousands of years since. And so that's why they decide to take over.
That would have been cool to know in the show.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Tim Burton would steal that for his shitty Planet of the Apes remake. But I know we've mentioned that, and I'll link it in the show notes. But yeah, there are lots of these interviews with Ben Hurst archived on SaturdayMorningSonic.com, and which I'm amazed is still up. Like, God bless the people that keeping that up, because that is where a lot of this comes from, and it's a very nice resource. So yeah, go read lots of more stuff on like the history of SatAM and all that stuff. Yeah, not only we get a year drop, but yes, they want to be taken to the fountain in Mobitropolis in the year 3224. You know, kind of comes back to bite them later where they don't specify an actual day, but hey, that's coming up. But they do manage to do this, even though Sonic can't help himself and is thinking about chili dogs right before they blip out of existence.
I would expect nothing less.
They end up at the fountain, and this is where the good SWAT bots greet them.
After their trip through the time warp. Let's all do the time warp.
Hey, Tim Curry.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah. They end up at the time that they want to. At least we think we do. Some very nice looking SWAT bots come by, but of course, you know, mental trauma and readiness and awareness as Sonic ready to dash away. But the SWAT bots come by and they just say, "Hello, citizens. Thanks for being here." Zip. So Sonic and Sally are getting used to the fact that, oh yeah, this is the past. This is Mobitropolis. And first thing they do is Sonic finds a chili dog stand, his favorite one, and gets himself a chili dog. A couple chili dogs, actually.
Can I just say the design of Mobitropolis, like, it's basic level design stuff, but I do like that, you know, the contrast between Robotropolis and Mobitropolis. It's so clear.
It's very good.
Yes.
One's dark, one's light. And it's really like your sort of like Edenian paradise future world. It's a good, like Mobitropolis is good future, essentially. But with less of the science-y stuff.
Yes.
Yep.
I was about to say that I love that it does, and I'm sure it's not intentional, but it does echo like some of the good futures in Sonic CD where Mobitropolis is more of like a technological utopia. And I love that they established that the SWAT bots were not like something that came about after created by Robotnik as like his security force, that they were like the built-in, security force for Mobitropolis and were like a force for good. And they explain it that later when we introduce, Julian, the Minister of Science, who would be Robotnik, is that he is specifically reprogramming them to only serve him and to hop on the radical left highway. That's why any attempt to disarm the workers must be frustrated by force if necessary. But no, I do sincerely love that detail that that they already existed like as a force working with the people and not like the oppressive SWAT bots that they would become.
Yeah.
Honestly, when you get down to it, a lot of Robotnik's like most infamous tools were co-opted from other creators.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
Yeah. I was just gonna say how I like this chili dog stand because I think this guy is in other episodes as well. This pig gentleman who is serving chili dogs. I think he does escape to Knothole, but come on, it's funny, man. It's the pig serving out hot dogs.
Yeah, I think he's actually. I think I remember him being in another episode doing a chili dog stand again, like in some underground cave society.
Yeah, that's the Ari episode, I think.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Is it Ari or is it the Griff episode?
It might be Griff.
No,
Yes.
You're right, Griff. I'm getting my annoying male animal characters mixed up.
Yeah, because I remember I don't think he has any few lines here, but in that episode he has a like, I'm a pig voice.
But I also, before we get to some of the more revelatory stuff, there's also right after Sonic like gets his two chili dogs, Sally pulls him behind some trash cans because here we go. We see kid versions of Sonic and Sally, and me seeing this episode, I actually remembered that I had seen it a long time ago, but it has been a long time, so I didn't remember everything. So looking at this again, like for me personally, I just thought it was cool that Sonic and Sally have like not only known each other, but like been bickering friends like since they were very, very little. And
yeah,
I like that. It's a cool thing to me.
Two doggies with the works, pal. Sonic, that's your third one today. Yeah, I'm really lucky. That is disgusting. Nuh-uh. Cool. Disgusting. Cool. Double disgusting. Triple cool. E equals MC squared disgusting. A zillion, trillion, jillion times cool.
Some things never change.
I did say that maybe it's just my own personal taste that I didn't really care for this introduction because yes, they spend like the next 30, 45 seconds having like a funny Sonic, Sonic's a gross little kid, little boy, and Sally is telling him how gross he is. But it is, like you said, it is pretty cool that these are two actual child actors. And this is Taj Mowry as young Sonic who, yeah, would get his. Okay, y'all are gonna have to tell me what Smart Guy is because I didn't see it. But I remember him as Wade, the cool techno guy. The Oracle on the line for Kim Possible, which is a super cool.
Oh, I didn't know he played Wade. That's awesome.
Yeah,
I just remember him from Sister, I think, because he was a little kid who was always trying to hit on Tia and Tamara.
I just remember Smart Guy the most because that's where he was the lead. So,
yeah.
And no, not that Urkel. I was going to say Urkel isn't the lead of Family Matters, but he kind of ended up being that way. So.
Yeah, well, he was introduced as a side character.
He took over.
So there's some similarities, some parallels here. I like it.
For those of you who were born after the show ended in 1999, which again making us feel ancient, Smart Guy was a show about a 10-year-old who went to high school because he was a kid genius.
Yeah.
Okay. So like a Doogie Howser type.
A little bit.
Yeah. And then this is Lindsay Ridgway, who also went on to have a very a very successful voiceover career, etc. But it stuck out to me that God, not too long after this, she would be Darla Dimple in Cats Don't Dance, which talk about a hidden gem. I think that a lot of people haven't seen that even when I was growing up, that was a man. Have you seen Cats Don't Dance? I think another Lauren Faust joint to where she did lots of animation.
Oh, cool.
But yeah, Darla Dimple is, again, what a great performance in that movie. So yes, even though I think it's a little grating for me personally, these little Sonic and Sally, I guess a lot of it is just like, I am never big on seeing our established characters as little kids.
Archie Comics really loved it for a while.
Yes, I was going to say that we got multiple special comics that's just Sonic kids using almost like these exact designs as well. And I mean, it's not terrible. Like, we never get into like Star Wars prequel level of explaining literally everything that has ever happened to our characters, but it's fine. I am realizing that is just a personal thing for me, that these young Sonic and Sally are okay.
Yeah.
Can I just take a quick moment to acknowledge the design going on with young Sally? It's not the typical princess design outfit you would expect from her. It's almost a little, I hate to say it, but to use this as my point of reference, but Princess Jasmine.
I was going to say
because that was that time period. What would you call that exactly?
Because she has the big long braid instead of her hair down like she has when she's older. And yeah, this is an outfit that carried over into Archie Comics. I remember the whole backstory of we learned that she used to visit the floating island with her dad and like actually has a friendship with Knuckles as well in the comics. But yeah it's like I think you're right on the money that this is a Princess Jasmine type outfit. Like, it doesn't really fit with any other Mobian fashion we've seen. It's a bit of an
Arabian princess sort of thing. And it's why it stands out for me is because I don't get that vibe from King Acorn at all.
No.
It's a pretty Western king, right? That's what's going on with that.
Yeah.
We'll get to him, but it's an interesting choice.
Well, this is ABC's Sonic the Hedgehog, so maybe Sally was watching Aladdin one day and said, "Daddy, I want to look like her."
Bro, let me tell you, I used to be obsessed with that Aladdin TV show.
Oh, man, yes.
Me too.
Hours of it taped off of this is back when, okay, to do a little time warp of our own. Back in the 90s, the Disney Channel had no commercials and was a extra channel that you would call your cable company up and say, I want the Disney Channel. And you would pay, a couple bucks extra, but they would do free previews of the Disney Channel, where for I want to say like a week solid that you could get the Disney Channel. And what that meant is my mom would pop in VHS tapes and just record 24 hours at a time of Disney Channel.
Your mom rocks.
And so I know that Aladdin also used to air on, I think it was our local like WJTC affiliate, but I remember following along with like the entire Aladdin animated series, which I couldn't tell you if it holds up, but like getting all the lore. So I knew all those villains and all the drama that they would put those characters in. And man, I really liked that show.
I did too.
The important thing is Gilbert Gottfried was still
Yes.
Iago and was a recurring cast
Yes.
member. Like, maybe obviously not going to get Robin Williams as Genie. Dan Castellaneta works, but come on.
Well, I mean, hey, they got I believe it's Aladdin and Jasmine from the movie, because I think they weren't.
Everybody from the
unknowns
movie
at
came
time.
back except Robin Williams.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Jafar shows up at least once in the show, and it's
The Return of Jafar.
Well, I know in Return of Jafar, did he not show up in the show as well? I feel like there might have been one episode.
Not in the show proper, but he did show up in that Hercules Aladdin crossover
That
episode.
was it.
Holy
shit! And of course, they brought the guy back because he loves being Jafar.
Oh yeah, like
Oh,
he
yeah.
even played Jafar in the Broadway run.
Yep,
Oh, that's awesome.
It's
Oh
so
my
good.
God, you're right. Yep. God, didn't even Jason Alexander as Abis Mal show up in the show a few times?
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
God, I think people forget how, people like to shit on, rightfully so, a lot of the direct-to-video Disney sequels, but those Aladdin ones are pretty out there, man. In a good way.
They're all right.
Oh, boy. 90s cartoons.
Like Sonic the Hedgehog.
We do also get the reveal that, as they are meeting up with young Uncle Chuck and filling him in, he reveals, oh yeah, no, I created the roboticizer. Whoops.
Robotnik calls it.
The roboticizer, I know. I invented it.
Whoa, Lunk! You invented it?
It was supposed to help older people live longer, but it changed them, took away their will, so I destroyed it.
Then how did Robotnik?
Files transfer to War Ministry?
Julian stole them.
Yeah, that was wild.
Yep, another thing that carries forward into Archie comics. That
Yep.
that Uncle Sir Charles is the one that came up with the original concept to help. It's pretty heavy to literally help. I think he says in the show to help older people live longer. But yeah, you could imagine like people with physical problems or injuries.
Yeah,
like, sure,
like-
just
I believe at least in like New 252 era, that's explicitly what it was originally created for, to create, synthetic limbs and organs and everything else to,
yeah.
assist people with the...
I think there might even be I can't remember if it was related to in-game. I remember it was a Spaziente page, but it's specifically Sonic's dad in the Archie comics who was severely injured in the Great Mobian Overlander War, but was one of the first subjects to have the roboticizer tried out, and that's where it all went wrong, and he was fully roboticized, and it was like such a it was something that Uncle Chuck carried with him for like the rest of his days. Like he felt responsible for everything that came after that. But yeah, it was cool to see that kind of originated here, and I love this version of Uncle Chuck.
Yeah.
He's much more oh god, this is really gonna date me. He's like a more gruff Mr. Whitaker from the Adventures in Odyssey.
Oh, God.
Now that's a rabbit hole we cannot go down, but
I can hear it though.
I much prefer this like gruff 2 packs a day Uncle Chuck than like the silly "Oh, hey there, Shenny boy" we get in Sonic Underground.
That's Maurice LaMarche, right?
I think it is, yeah.
Yeah. No offense to Maurice LaMarche.
Like, it's, what's his name? William Wyndham as Uncle Chuck. I always thought that his vocal performance reminds me a lot of, like, Richard McGonagall as Sully in the Uncharted games. Like, there's no vocal difference in my mind.
Yeah, I like to project this version of Uncle Chuck onto Grandpa Chuck from Sonic X.
Oh, yeah.
Don't know what you're talking about.
When you see Sir Charles in his Mobian form, so to speak, it becomes all the more clear that he's a recolor of Sonic with a moustache and funky shoes, and as a result, he stands out amongst all the other, say, differently designed Mobian characters throughout this show. There's a bit of an inconsistent style between a lot of these NPCs, if you will.
The more traditional animal kind of characters.
I think this is also where they try, present Sonic and Sally are trying to explain like what is going to happen to Uncle Chuck while also disguising themselves from their younger selves. I think Sonic calls himself Juice, which real creative there, Sonic. Just take one of your catchphrases. But Sally picks her middle name, which is Alicia, which again, sorry, just all of this mixing with my Archie comic past was her middle name in that comic, and also ends up being the name of her mother, I believe.
Yes.
Alicia Acorn. But yeah, they're trying desperately to say that you can't trust Robotnik, who is calling himself Julian, and at this time, even though he's basically infiltrated the kingdom, trying to bring up I think the king dubs him like the Ministry of Science, because he's always just brought so many improvements to like the robots and the technology of Mobotropolis. But yeah, he's Robotnik, and so it's all a ruse. It's all, yes, he's setting up, he literally says like he's setting up the coup to take over the whole city and then the planet.
I love your idea to abolish the military. That's going to work out really well for us.
Yeah, why would we need it? In this time of perpetual peace. And,
it's true, but it also feels really on the nose. Like, let's get rid of all the defenses. That sounds great.
Yeah. What could possibly go wrong?
And for our entirely programmable military, let's leave it in one man's hands. Nothing can go wrong there.
Yes. Yeah.
This man with suspiciously black and red eyes.
I was gonna say.
I'm sure all humans look like that.
I mean, I have no frame of reference.
Apart from that Snively fellow, he seems a bit odd.
I do love his hair, though.
It's a little f***ed up, but who am I to judge? I won't make cultural assumptions. But yes, I think this is also where we literally get where, the king leaves and Robotnik immediately grabs Snively and explains his whole plan.
Why are we voice activating Uncle Julian?
We aren't. From now on, everything will answer only to my voice. Do you know what that means, Snively?
No, Uncle Julian.
It means you call me Sir.
Yes, sir.
From now on, Snively, you do exactly what I say.
Yes, sir.
Apparently, up to this point, he's been working with Snively, which, does he call him his nephew at this point? To where we also established that they are...
Well, he's still calling him Uncle Julian, right? So
yes. And this is Snively with his beautiful head of hair. But yeah, obviously turns heel on Snively to where he grabs him by his collar and says that, all these robots will now only answer to my voice print and mine alone. Basically, like, immediately setting in stone that Snively is never going to be more than a lackey to Robotnik going forward.
Oh, I should have known. Mother always told me not to trust you. Just like to think there's some sort of like weird familial thing going on. But we all just have to. All we can do is infer, because we never really get into the character relationships in this. But if we get into Archie,
yes.
Oh man, that just made me think of Robotnik as a sibling. Like, wow, that I would love to see that family tree.
Yeah, that's another thing that, like, not even Yeah, Archie didn't even get into it until post Dr. Eggman, to where I think some of his family comes back down, like in their spaceship, and are like, Julian, how have you been? And he's like, that ain't me, go f yourself, and roboticizes all of them into horrible statues.
Oh, don't remind me of that character design, Luke.
Is that Colin? Is that Colin
Yes.
Kintober?
Yes.
Now, for the audience who can't see this image that Lucas pasted into the chat, this is an interesting-ass character design we see here of this family member of the Kintober family. Oh, what's going on with his hair?
It's a bald man with a bad toupee.
It's Android 16 before he started lifting, I guess.
Started applying hair gel, I guess.
Dunking Goku's.
Dunking Goku's.
Shout out to Life Arrow.
Yes. Oh, anyway, that about wraps up this episode, because as we are seeing this, which we didn't mention, I hope it goes without saying that Charlie Adler and Jim Cummings as Snively and Robotnik are just, they're also great.
Yeah.
It's iconic performances. We don't even need to get into it.
Well, we do a little bit, I think, because we spent as much time talking about Long John Baldry as AOSTH Robotnik.
Yes.
We need to give Jim Cummings his flowers here.
Yes.
Not that Robotnik would appreciate those flowers, since he hates everything that is related to nature.
I wanted to be more delicate than I think I described earlier, that Robotnik always sounds like he's on the verge of creaming his jeans in this performance, which isn't bad, but it is, like I said, it sticks in my mind.
Yeah.
When I think of SatAM Robotnik, I think of that. It's very good. It's very good.
It's really weird. I love this performance. It is pure, if you accept it as a pure ham, as you put it, Captain Planet villain who loves pollution and loves machines and things, and is just a sadist who enjoys the suffering of others, it's fine. But if you try to, with how serious the show is sometimes, if you try to accept this character as anything beyond that, if there's any explanation for why he's doing this other than the fact that he's an asshole who wants supreme power, I guess, you're just going to be left guessing.
Yes.
And that's fine for Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog Robotnik, where he's just a big silly stupid man who's a narcissist, and he's just like, Moby and I'll take over.
He's got a big funny butt.
Yeah, this guy, we don't know what his actual intentions or backstory is, other than he just wants to take over. So there's no big build to this. We know he's taking over, but a part of me almost wanted to see a bit more reasoning as to why he hates the king so much and why he's doing all this. And because the moment he steps out of his, they crash his big destroyer ship or whatever it is into the throne room, and he comes out and he's like, "Call me Robotnik," and he's already dressed in his weird red, what do you call it? Target gear. Jumpsuit. The recticle on him.
His bullseye. He's got the big bullseye like American Robotnik had. Yeah. Don't get me wrong. I think the era of Archie comics where it comes out of is also pretty close to some of the dumbest bullcrap, but they do kind of flesh out his motivations as to where he was literally about to be arrested for crimes against humanity because he was a scientist with the humans, the overlanders, and he ran away, basically saying oh, those stupid fools just don't get it. And then when he got picked up by King Acorn, and he immediately saw oh, I can put all of my machinations to work with this kingdom because they're so trusting and pure good. And so he had a little bit more of a motivation to where his own kingdom wasn't going to let him get away with it, and so he infiltrated this one to take over.
I just think there's a version of this maybe made after the 90s where we really get into that stuff and have an interesting version of Robotnik that sort of lives up to how scene stealing and great he is. He's a great presence, but I just wanted there to be a bit more substance behind him. But I'm just over-criticizing this 90s cartoon. I just think it could be better at times, you know?
You're not wrong, because lots of people do like to put forward as like, this is my Robotnik, the pure evil guy. And then you ask to like, for any details, like, yeah, but why is he evil? Like, I don't know. He has a cool voice filter on.
True, he does, but you know, I'm very entertained by it, and just, you know, for what this show aspires to be, and for how people like build it up, you'd think there was more to it. But I'm just being a big fussy person. Considering I love STC, where Robotnik is just evil because he absorbed evil emerald power. But at least they gave us a reason for that.
and reshaped his image within a giant rotten egg.
Yeah, naturally. That makes sense to me.
Yes.
No, you are right, because another one that sticks in my head is the silly little episode where Antoine tries to capture Robotnik to show that he's better than Sonic, and you've got a great moment where he's explaining all this to Robotnik. He dug a pit that he fell in and says like,
I will be a large hero and win the hand of the princess.
A nice dream, but dreams are meant to be broken.
And it's exactly what you're talking about, to where, oh, he's just so bad, and you don't need a reason. It's okay.
You don't need it. Just maybe when we get into these backstory episodes, you almost expect one.
Yes,
but that's about it. You know, I still enjoy this. Before we move... Oh, sorry, you were saying.
Oh, I was just going to say, to give Charlie Adler his due, he is also fantastic as Snively. This is another... Talk about an actor that, again, can craft just unforgettable, almost uncopyable performances, is Mr. Charlie Adler.
For sure.
Because you can hear a little bit of Buster Bunny, a little bit of Cow from Cow and Chicken in there.
Man.
And
a little bit of Ickis.
Yes, Ickis especially. And the way Snively just goes up and down. I really love it.
But I did want to point out, like, the whole when, before Robotnik invades, King Acorn actually recognizes it's Sally, and oh, she has the royal signet, which she has worn this whole time. Trust us.
And also, he has her say the family credo, which is, well, it's so super secret. It's to rule with honor.
Julian plotting against the throne. A serious allegation, Sir Charles. I assume you have proof.
Your Majesty. Daddy, it's me.
Sir Charles.
This will be hard to believe, Your Majesty, but she's come from the future.
The future? Sally?
Yes, Daddy.
The royal signet. What is our secret family credo?
To rule with honor.
Sally, it is you.
Yeah.
Okay. She knows something.
Okay.
It must be Sally. No one else could have possibly...
Some royalists really up their own ass here. But no, that was like, there's a couple of these moments where it is like a, wow, how convenient.
There's a couple of those moments in the second episode too.
But it's the performance, let's be honest. It works.
Oh yeah.
If we already didn't mention it, Tim Curry is also playing the king, not King Acorn, not Maximilian, not Nigel. He's just the king.
Nigel Thornberry.
It's a very naturalistic. You really do get the sense he has a very warm fatherly quality, and I really appreciate that here. Mentioned it before. A nice contrast to most of Archie Sonic King Acorn, who is just a real motherfucker.
Yeah.
Hate that guy.
Oh, man.
Don't we all?
They're trying so hard to warn everyone they can. Sir Charles, the king. If only they have thought to come a day before Robotnik's coup had happened and not the exact hour. Oh, boy.
And the matter is further complicated when, as all this is happening, Sir Charles has already reached out to Rosie, the nanny of all of these little kid future freedom fighters, be like, if, you notice anything strange, just take the kids to Knothole and everything. And, of course, the kids are like, there's something going on. We should find out for ourselves because we're young and, kid power and shit.
Yeah, that was another 90s thing. Like, kids are awesome. They could do anything. Like, no,
they got caught.
Maybe you should. No. Yes. I think, is this not the one of the first things that Sally realizes that they have changed by interfering with the past?
Yes.
Is that which I think this is also where we get a very Saturday morning explanation of, hey, if those kids die, we will die.
It sounds like,
we won't exist.
Won't exist? You mean like you're not alive and kicking?
Precisely.
Oh, very uncool.
He does say something real stupid like that, doesn't he? Yeah, right as this is happening, where they're realizing, things are changing. We're trying to warn the king, but here is where Robotnik bursts in with his entourage, and I think you already said, he says,
"Welcome to Robotropolis, the capital of my kingdom."
To be continued.
Blue streak speeds by. Next episode start.
I can't remember if I mentioned I watched these on my Shout Factory DVD set, which is very nice. I remember when they announced this way back when. I think this was right before I was in college. But they announced that they were asking people to like submit their Sonic fan art to be featured on the packaging. And if I remember correctly, I think everyone's properly credited either on the discs or in like the insert. So good for them. And I even recognize a few pages like I had in my old DeviantArt favorites. But I would be remiss if I didn't mention that the front cover, for some reason, God only knows, was illustrated by Mr. Ken Penders. The creator of Sonic and Sally. No.
Yeah, wow.
The guy who had nothing directly to do with SatAM, but was working on the comics at the time. And it looks like it's terrible. This is another one that I hope Discotech does a re-release like they did Adventures. I'm sure they wouldn't be able to keep like all the fan art. I wonder like what the, a modern day licenser's nightmare that would be, but at least we'd get different cover art, I'm sure.
Well, we've got different cover art over here, so we didn't have to look at the Ken Penders art. But what we did get was, and here's time to share an image that the audience can't see, but
please,
trust me, it's good. This is our one. It's actually the prototype Adventures Sonic.
Oh.
Wow. That's, an effort was made.
Yeah.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Someone definitely drew it. Yeah.
That is current RockTheJake's drawing skill level. Actually, that's better than current RockTheJake's drawing skill level.
I mean, it's just an airbrushed. It's like a redrawn, practically traced an airbrushed image of that old Sonic art from the cartoon that never was, essentially.
Yeah,
where Sonic is really big.
It's like if you went to China to a bootleg market and bought the DVD.
Yes, the Obama the Hedgehog backpack. Thinking back, it's probably about the same quality as those VHS covers that were also around at that same time of, probably an overworked artist who had a deadline and wasn't given any context of what they were doing. I would prefer that to, just the cavalcade of horrors that is the Ken Penders cover. Sorry. Yes.
Oh my goodness.
That's the icon it has on Tubi right now.
Tubi, that was it. So what we're looking at here, that's it's the Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog logo. Modern Sonic Adventure stock art Eggman and stock art classic Sonic.
Yep, that's and a some kind of background.
It's pretty surrealist, so it gives me that AOSTH vibe a little bit.
Yeah,
it's a bit swirly.
It looks like a Earthbound fighting screen.
Yeah, it does.
That little swirl.
I think we did also forgot to mention that, like Adventures, these episodes are all on YouTube officially from WildBrain.
Yeah, that's how I watched it.
The current licensors. And yeah, that's probably the best way to watch them if you don't have those out of print DVDs. So go for it.
It's an acceptable quality.
Yep. Acceptable.
So we get into
part 2.
We get into part 2 proper. We had like the tiny little recap of what happened last episode. And then we get into the crisis situation. King, well, I was going to say King Acorn, but just King is having a hard time believing it, but hey, sorry, it's happening. Oh no, this is happening.
He tries his best to put on a brave face saying, you won't get away with us, Julian.
You can't win this, Julian.
The name is no longer Julian. From this day forward, I am Robotnik.
And then Uncle Chuck shows just how smart and cool he is by pulling out some sort of turn them off electro daggers and throwing them at the SWAT bots.
He's sort of like science fiction Q-tips.
Yeah, basically.
Just throws at them and
antennas.
Makes them turn red.
Yeah, isn't this where they developed the 2-pronged plan of we got to shut down the roboticizer, but also take out Robotnik's airship, which is magically transforming everything into Robotropolis polluted.
Yeah, I made a note about like, wow, Robotnik sure made everything awful very, very fast.
Yeah, and I think this is where we get the ultimate, like you've already talked about, where Robotnik literally takes a big deep breath in and is like,
taste that polluted air, Sniffly. Isn't it marvelous?
Yep.
It's like, okay, this is his one motivation. He loves killing nature, and
he's a big old garbage boy stink man.
That's true.
Robotnik is very horny for pollution and killing animals.
Yes.
Sorry, I'm just looking back at the scene you just mentioned where the destroyer is going around and doing this and instantaneously turning like this big ziggurat tower that was the royal court or wherever it was the king was staying into the strange monstrous Easter egg thing that was Robotnik's base instantaneously. I don't know if this is meant to be something that happens instantly because there is a slight fade, but it's happening at the speed it happened in the opening.
Yes.
And I thought that was supposed to be metaphorical, but I guess it's almost literal in this case.
Well, I mean, it might be like hey, they're working with the budget they got. But I mean, did we just figure out Robotnik's whole motivation? Does he have a corruption kink? Does that explain everything so far?
We can't help but make it like some Freudian thing.
Have you listened to the man
the way
talk?
Jim Cummings delivers his lines?
And there's nothing else to draw on. Well, I think we got it. We wrapped it up. Lord. But yeah, this is where a present Sonic and Sally realize that Robotnik's airship is, destroying everything it touches, and also that their kid versions and also the rest of the kid freedom fighters, the Sonic kids, have been captured and are awaiting
roboticization.
I can't say it.
It did vary. To be fair, the pronunciation varies. I think I've heard roboticization, robotization,
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they use the word robotization in this episode.
Robotussin.
Yeah.
Well, they're gonna get thrown in the roboticizer, which would be very bad. So they realize they need to form a 2-pronged attack where they need to shut down the roboticizer or destroy it in the best case scenario, and also take out this airship. But I think this is where Sally busts out Nicole, who not in this show, but would go on to an Archie to become a cool character in her own right. And Nicole says that her current power can only shut down the roboticizer for about 2 hours, which should give them enough time to take out the airship and then circle back around to rescue the kids.
I just want to take a moment to acknowledge that it is Kath Soucie playing Nicole, right?
Yes,
it's just Kath Soucie doing Sally's ASMR voice.
Yeah. Wow. Yep.
Broke computer.
It's real good though. I always like Nicole, and I think she even we get another like goofy Sonic moment where he really does just say the "in plain English, please," and she repeats it back to him real sarcastically.
Nicole, can we shut down the roboticizer?
Available power insufficient, Sally. Damage analysis. Loss of power amplifiers and sequential systems processors.
Nicole, in English.
In plain English. We can shut it down for about 2 hours, Sonic.
There's also, speaking of vocal performances, I want to mention a moment in the scene before this one where right before Robotnik says the words, "It's showtime," he has a very quiet, subtle laugh that it just sounds so goofy. And when I first heard it, I busted out laughing and I had to pause because I could not stop laughing. It's just like,
I do like how after they escape, there's a scene where Snively's like,
2 prisoners escaped from their cell, sir. One, a very fast blue hedgehog.
Blue hedgehog? Nothing to fret about.
Yeah, that's the same scene with the subtle laugh.
Oh, if he only knew, folks.
Teehee. It is interesting because I saw Bunny was on the table ready to undergo the procedure. They managed to get in time so that she doesn't get affected. But I thought for sure this was going to be the moment where Bunny gets partly roboticized before they managed to stop the process.
I thought so too.
I was waiting for it to happen the whole episode, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I am surprised that she managed to make it out totally unscathed.
I'm guessing it happened at a different time then in the timeline.
I don't recall if we ever get it in SatAM. That was another another Archie thing where, God, that's one of the first issues where they meet Bunny and she gets tossed into one of the mobile roboticizers and Sonic breaks it, but not in time before she gets her, her partial transformation.
That was the one of the ones on Mega Collection.
It's also in the prototype version of the opening sequence, if you've ever seen the animatic for that.
Oh, yeah.
You see her getting roboticized in that, and this massive, this mass roboticizer that Robotnik's bringing out.
I wonder if that was just an episode that never came to be. But that would have been real nice to see fully animated.
Do you know what isn't nice, though? Seeing this small child strapped to a surgery table. Because the roboticizer never looks like this at any other point. It makes it worse.
It doesn't even look like this later in the episode.
Yeah, they're right.
It does change.
It's almost like Robotnik just did this personally. It's like he's carrying out an operation. I don't like it.
At 90s cartoons, children in real peril.
Oh, even the younglings.
Oh God. But yeah, I think this is also where right after they shut it down is Sally not only shuts it down but also downloads the original plans for the roboticizer, which is another thing that is changed in the future. And they get confronted by Snively and he's, what are you doing in here? And Sonic teases him and says, enjoy your hair while it lasts, and then speeds off at such a rate that the vacuum from his presence tears out all of Snively's beautiful hair.
No.
Ouch.
Yes.
Funny moment. I don't know if this is him changing the timeline, because I like to believe originally the reason he lost all his hair is out of stress from serving under Robotnik. So, but no, now I guess it's just this one moment, and that's where Snively vows revenge against Sonic.
Yep. Which I guess carries over into the cliffhanger ending of the series where he takes over for Robotnik.
This is for my hair. And I'm not alone.
And he pulls out a wig.
Yeah.
This is my wig, Naugus.
On their way out to intercept the airship, they also rescue Dulce's mother, who's been cornered by some SWAT bots in an alley. I think Savina is her name.
Yes.
Yeah. Which is another character who gets no lines, just some, I can't even tell if it's a human person making these dragon shrieking noises. But yeah, we also realize that this is little Dulcie is cowering in her mother's pouch. So I guess dragons are some kind of marsupial in this universe.
Yeah,
dragons are just kangaroos with wings.
I mean, yeah, we have established that she hangs upside down by her tail, so...
Yeah, like an opossum.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, sure, why not? And this is also where, we see the emotional end, at least until later episodes of the end of The King, where Robotnik tosses him into the void.
No matter how long it takes, Julian, I will stop you.
Courageous words, sire. But where you're going, that won't be possible. Open the void. Impressive, don't you think? Be sure to give Nagus my regards. He's the sorcerer who invented it, and, your new neighbor. Safe journey, sire.
You'll regret this, Julian! You'll regret this!
Name drops Nagus, who...
Say hello to Nagus for me.
I do remember specifically because I did not see these episodes when they aired, but there was a Sonic web ring with websites that had wave files and clips from this episode. So this was one of the only ones I knew of, like what the King sounded like was him getting tossed into the void.
You'll regret this.
Yeah.
So after Robotnik tosses the King into the void, Sally directs Sonic to go to the
Great Forest, where Knothole is, I guess.
Yes, the Great Forest, to the sliding tree, and Sonic is at first apprehensive about it, but as the ship starts coming up, we get to see, which I'm glad we actually get to talk about it now, the way that rings work in this series and in this episode, which me personally, from the episodes of SatAM I have seen, because I haven't seen the whole series, but I actually really enjoy how rings work in this series. Like, I like that you only need one. It's like a super power up, because Sonic pulls one out of his backpack that he's had the entire time. And
well, technically speaking, you only need one in the games as well.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
that's all you have to survive. But it doesn't give you superpowers like this.
The fascinating thing is this gets carried forward into Sonic X.
It does.
Yeah.
This is exactly how they work in Sonic X, as a MacGuffin to give Sonic a power up for a pivotal moment in the episode. And that kind of blew my mind back then, and still now. I'm like, yeah, well, okay, that's kind of cool. Because what else? What do you do with the rings? Like you said, in the games, it is your health. Like, as long as you have one, you cannot die. But you can't really transfer that exact mechanic into a TV show. So yeah, giving a boost of power works really well. But yeah, like you said, he uses this ring. We get a really cool animated flourish, and then Sally grabs on, and they zip upwards into the great slide that will eventually lead to the secret Knothole Village and up into the sky right above Robotnik's destroyer.
And as they're falling, Sonic activates, what are they? The anti-gravity things?
Yeah,
this is something from a previous episode, right?
No, I looked it up. It comes up later. This is the first mention of anti-gravity.
Oh, man.
Because I went on I'm like, okay, I remember this, but this had to have come up in another episode. And no, they barely mentioned that, maybe the magnet function of his shoes, which also comes back in Sonic Underground. But no, the anti-grav is this episode. It's literally... Sorry, no offense to the writers, but literally how do we get them down without them dying from a fall?
Yeah, exactly.
Sonic's got anti-gravity boosts.
Maybe there was an episode that didn't make it onto the actual airing order. I don't know.
Yeah, it could be.
It's funny because I just immediately assumed, it's probably something I missed. While Jackie was sat next to me going, what? What was that? I was like, no, they probably explain it. It's fine. They don't, I guess. That's what I get for having faith in the writers.
Because I can't remember. I think in SatAM, they might mention, again, I might be mixing it up with Sonic Underground and Archie, but that Uncle Chuck is the one that designs Sonic's sneakers because he burns through his regular tennis shoes. like we see, young Sonic wearing in these episodes. But I couldn't tell you off the top of my head if that happens on screen in SatAM or not. So I guess there is precedent for his shoes having some extra functions, but no, as far as I could tell, the anti-gravity is just this moment in this episode. So, wah, wah.
Oh, well.
This is where it is heavily implied that Robotnik committed genocide against the rest of the dragons.
Yes.
Because Dulcie's the only one that shows up in the present time period.
That's a really cool thing to have in a cartoon for children.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's implied. You have to dig into it, but but yeah, this is where because Sonic and Sally rescued her earlier, Savina, Dulcie's mom, comes back to help take out the robot guards so they can get inside the destroyer airship and set it to crash and burn. Which, they don't really, at the end of this episode, I kind of wish they would at least list out like the things that they feel like they've changed, because it seems like stopping the destroyer before it could get to like the entirety of the Great Forest seemed like something that would definitely affect the future. But they make it safely back down to the ground and then loop right back around to Robotropolis, because now they've got to rescue the people who are going to be thrown in the roboticizer before it can be powered back up. However, I think this might be another mistake, because Sally keeps mentioning that, oh my goodness, we have X amount of minutes before the roboticizer comes back online. But as she's saying that, they cut to a random Mobian is roboticized, and then poor Uncle Chuck gets tossed in it. And then right before, the Sonic kids can be, is when they burst in to rescue him. So, either that was a mistake or, Sally miscalculated the time until it was reactivated there. But
Poopsie. There's a lot to talk about in the roboticizer. Oh my God, we're going to be here all day trying to pronounce that. The roboticizer scene. There's because there are numerous things to point out here. The first thing being, have they ever shown these, they look like power rings or halos that they put around the head of the people who are going in the machine, but I'm not entirely sure what the function is other than making them incapable of running away or something? What is going on with these things? Do they have precedence for this? Is this just a new thing?
I want to say in the episode where Robotnik makes a duplicate of Sally, a robot Sally, that there is something similar that he, again, it looks like power rings, but it's supposed to be like a halo that, is supposed to inhibit their brain functions. So yeah, like you said, they can't just bolt and run away.
They can still be shocked and yell at him, apparently, but that's about as much as and move their arms to point at him, but that's about it, I guess.
It is super weird. It also reminds me, again, of, I think it's the first proper Archie issue where I don't even think they had a concept of robotization in Archie yet, but they were mind controlled. Like it's Uncle Chuck and Mutsky have
thinking about that now. Yeah.
They have swirly hypnotized eyes, and Sonic's like, snap out of it, what's happened? And Robotnik's like, oh, they're under my control now. But I don't know if these weird imprisoning halos are ever explained properly.
The inhibitor rings. They got there before Shadow.
Yeah.
Can I also point out the weird robot, when this dog guy is roboticized, the animation that happens here. First off, the first frame, he's smiling. I'm not sure I would in the circumstances.
Yeah.
Then the way he sort of transforms, it's sort of it's cartoony almost. The way his body bulges out and the robot parts almost seem to pop onto him and you could just imagine little Hanna-Barbera sound effects boom, 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 boom.
Holy shit. Okay, hold on. Because I think I said this earlier, that when this dog Mobian is roboticized, it looks like those toys from the 90s. I think they're called Poochie. Literally manufactured by Sega Toys.
Oh my goodness, what?
Yes.
You've exposed the conspiracy.
Oh my goodness. Wow. Yeah, they were distributed by Tiger, but this is a Sega Toys product from the year 2000. Oh my goodness. My sister had one of these. That is crazy. We're going nuts, folks.
Oh my god, yeah, I'm seeing like Super Poochie. I think I'm seeing here. Oh yeah, it looks like this. It looks very much like this dude ends up.
Anyway, just a random tangent. This is where we get the other, where Sonic is the one that pushed Robotnik into the roboticizer to get that weird metal arm that he's got.
That's interesting how that happens. We've established that things something changes by the end of this story. But does this suggest some sort of I don't know. This fact was always set in stone that he was going to have his arm.
I was going to say, I've been wondering about that this whole pair of episodes, because they keep changing things as if to imply this is how it was always meant to happen. It was always predestined this way, but also they actually do change stuff. So it's like they're kind of trying to have it both ways. And as a result, it comes off a little weird.
Yeah. I don't know if it's like God, here's me being a nerd. It's a Steins Gate attractor field situation where time always tries to reset these events to happen, no matter what you do. So Robotnik's arm has to change into part robot so he can start being even more roboty, because eventually he has the robotic filter on his voice, I guess.
Yeah, now I can't off the top of my head think of another piece of media. But yes, instead of multiverse theory, instead of branching timelines, it's always that time will try and to correct itself to incorporate these changes.
Because these are important events. Unlike the event that does get changed, which apparently is not important enough.
No, to jump ahead, the one thing that they do definitely change is that Sally, when they meet back up with Rosie and after they rescue the kids, begs and pleads with her, says, "Rosie, please never leave Knothole Village ever for the rest of your life."
I know it's you, Princess. You can't fool your old nanny. Rosie, I have to tell you something.
What's coming?
I can't explain now. Just promise me you'll never leave Knothole. Never? Dear, I don't. Never. Please, Rosie. It is very, very important. Well, all right then. I promise.
And she's like, "Well, okay, dearie, whatever you say." And at the very closing of the episode, we get Tails coming in to tell Sonic and Sally that supper's ready, that Rosie has made. And they're like, Rosie the babysitter? And he's like, yeah, who else would it be? But, they don't actually show Rosie in the present, so whatever.
And she never appears in any other episode.
No.
Tails is just living in the past. No, wait, I don't think he was even around for that.
No, he wasn't he wasn't even born.
Something's just very wrong with Tails' memory, I guess. So his brain. Maybe he's seeing alternate timelines. Oh no.
Ruh-roh. It's because he's the chosen one.
Yeah, of course. That was inevitable. One thing that's, Jackie pointed this out to me when we were watching this, it's a bit weird how Sonic, when Sally is begging and pleading to Rosie to never leave Knothole, and Sonic's like, well, what about all the space-time stuff that you were worried about? I was like, was she really worried? I mean, yeah, she was worried about them being affected, but they did go back in time to change things. So I don't know.
Sonic was the one at the whole reason he's on board is they were going to go back and stop Robotnik once and for all. So that's one of those. It's like, okay, some poorly worded editing here, or Sonic is just very stupid.
I'm willing to say both.
Yeah. After Robotnik gets his arm roboticized, Sonic, they have an exchange. I can't remember the exact phrasing.
I don't know how or when, but you're gonna crash and burn, pal.
It's a cheesy line. Jaleel White delivers it so earnestly that I buy into it.
And it comes right after Sonic has arrived just too late to save Uncle Chuck. And he tells him, he says, "You gotta fight it, Uncle Chuck." Because that is a previous episode where in the present that they managed to temporarily break the mind control from Uncle Chuck, and he helps him out. So Sonic does know it is possible, but he just can't do it right now.
Yeah, and he even tells his younger self, "Yeah, don't worry. Unk's going to be just fine. It's just going to take a while, but he'll be back to the way he was.
Yeah, like modern Sonic says, like,
Hey, Sonic! Enjoy your future! It's gonna be great!
It's gonna be great!
Gosh, yeah. Better, it's less metatextual in this one, but maybe worse in the SatAM universe. Oh boy!
But no, it's a sweet little scene, to be fair.
Yes, like you said, again, the performances from everybody really make it stand out. Yeah, I don't even think we mentioned that she only gets a couple lines, but that's April Winchell as Rosie the babysitter, who's another just one of the funniest ladies I've heard on her own podcasts and guest appearances. I think she might still be the current official voice for Clarabelle the cow.
She is, yeah.
But no, she's great. Love April Winchell.
And that honestly brings us about to the end. Like, Sonic and Sally help Rosie and the kids escape through the secret hatch and then manage to get back to the future before Robotnik catches up to them.
Phrasing.
And we get the reveal that, even though Sonic's still ticked that they could have stopped him, they get 2 wins in the form of the original roboticizer plans, and Rosie is alive, even though it has absolutely no effect on future episodes.
Yeah, you can imagine, especially the roboticizer plans might have led to, again, some like reverse technology or a way to like free all of the, I think you said it earlier, Chris, but yeah, to borrow an Archie term, free the Robians from Robotnik's control. It's right there. It really is, looking back on these episodes set up a lot of things that just never happened in the show proper, unfortunately.
Man, this, it just reminds me of the potential of SatAM. I mean, obviously, lots of fans who remember the show will look past that and just see the best parts, and rightfully so. But man, there's just I feel like there are so many missed opportunities with this stuff to set up, like, a really ambitious Sonic story. And it's really illustrated here in this time travel episode.
And we've already kind of aired our grievances about, the very next episode is the combination Fed Up with Antoine and Ghost Busted, which might be 2 of like the weakest episodes next to the aforementioned Robecca, which is also an Antoine episode. Like, who thought that was a good idea? Like, Antoine never is in SatAM. Antoine is never anything but, yes, a goofy ass French coward stereotype. Who thought it was a good idea to give him multiple solo episodes in season 2?
Fine in the role he had of being the silly comic relief character. And you know me, I love me a good comic relief character, especially if they just happen to be voiced by Rob Paulson of all people. But there's only so much of that voice you can take at one given time.
On the whole, I really like these episodes. It was simultaneously reminded me of like the best things that I recall from SatAM. Like, it does take itself super seriously, but I don't think that hurts it as much as you would think. And especially like we've already said, in that era of cartoons, especially your Captain Planets, your Ninja Turtles, that kind of goes a long way of making a memorable universe, and that it works for the most part. And love me some Tim Curry. Was great to hear him in these episodes, and I really liked going back to these flaws and all. It's because it's not Adventures, which is completely off the walls nuts. You know exactly what you're getting, which is a bunch of crazy puns and Looney Tune-esque shenanigans, that it's harder to say to like recommend the show as a whole. I really think you'd have to watch a couple episodes to see if it's going to be up to your speed. No pun intended.
But it's like, it's harder to recommend it now with the current generation of Sonic fans, because this is so far removed from what Sonic is a lot of the time. Unless you want to, like, with the exception of maybe Sonic Forces, which was essentially trying to be this kind of story that failed on almost all levels. But it's hard because this show is, it's a real interesting show, but it's not a very Sonic-y show, I feel like.
it's hard to, you basically have to recommend it with a lot of context. Like when I would recommend Archie Sonic issues to people, where I would say, oh yeah, they get really good, but also if you don't really understand the tumultuous times that they went through to get to the good stuff, it's hard to really appreciate it fully. But yeah, it's super weird. You do have to understand the what was going on with Sonic as a franchise at the time.
It is very much of a specific time and place.
Yeah, but it's also like, in many ways, it helped forge like at least what the Western understanding of Sonic was for a lot of American fans, and you know, it is very iconic and important, I think, like in terms of what we would get in later Sonic media, even into STC on my end, because even at the time I recognized that they were taking a few ideas from what was going on in SatAM, like definitely more that than Archie, because I don't think they knew about Archie, but SatAM was one of the things they were pulling from in terms of having like the Freedom Fighters and Robotnik taking over, and what else? Then other things. It's
Robotnik's what is it called in STC? Robotnik's like palace base of operations.
Yeah. Citadel Robotnik is reminiscent of Robotropolis, I have to say.
Very much so. Yeah.
I might be wrong on this, but I'm fairly certain Grimer was written in with the idea of originally being Snively, because Nigel Kitching thought he had to have Snively in this.
Yeah.
But then he ended up making his own character, and all the better for it. Different character entirely. But
Robotnik's always needs a henchman sidekick.
Yeah,
it's true.
And Snively, it serves his own purpose. Sometimes you've got like the one guy who's there to serve Robotnik's needs, or you've got the two bumbling sidekicks. But Snively is his own guy in many ways, because in the case of a Grimer and an Agent Stone and Dr. Starline at first, there's someone who like really respects and looks up to Robotnik.
Real sycophant.
Snively hates his uncle.
Oh yeah, he hates his guts. Yeah, but knows that he is also like powerless to do anything, to usurp him on his own.
So there's so much of this ends up being the DNA of how many Western fans understand Sonic, and even if it is like entirely its own thing, it's not even got like anything to do with the Sonic Bibles that we spent a long time talking about. It was an early example of, like I mentioned before, a creative team getting a lot of creative freedom with Sonic, the kind of which they could only dream of getting from Sega, the kind of carte blanche that they would never get in this day and age. And you could argue the pros and cons of that. I think it has led to some pretty great Sonic content, but there is something really interesting about them being able to take like the basic ideas of Sonic and forge their own world around it. Whether you like it or not is entirely up to you. I enjoy it, but it wasn't my favorite growing up because it didn't remind me of the games very much. So when we got stuff like this episode where they like had little things that reminded me of the games, it's like, oh, okay, it's a Sonic show.
Yep.
Yeah, honestly, it was fun for me to go back to this because it's been a long time since I've watched literally any Saturday morning. So it was nice to kind of get that blast from the past, not to make the obvious pun.
Well, you made it.
Yeah, I'm in it now. Yeah, I do want to maybe go watch a few more episodes of the show just to kind of get back into that mindset, because it has been a while, and this has gotten me a little bit more back in the mood to dive in a little deeper and refresh myself on stuff I've forgotten.
So I wanted to ask y'all, since we made the episode, a previous episode about Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog and their
also about time travel.
Yes, their time travel arc. I will say up front, it's not fair to compare the two like just straight up just because of the fact that they do time travel. But like, do you have any thoughts as to like sort of this versus that? Like, I guess the best question I can ask is, who do you think necessarily handled time travel better?
I think, like, here's the first thing. It is interesting that both of these arcs that leaned into time travel started employing more concepts from the games. The Chaos Emeralds on the part of the Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog one, and the Time Stones in this one, which is kind of makes a bit more sense when you think about it. But like the Adventures one had the benefit of having more episodes. Like it's a little unfair almost.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think overall, I would say SatAM handles the concept of magical time travel a little bit better. First of all, by making it magical, like, you know, they meet the owl wizard man and have an artifact. And they also don't do like, again, because Adventures is very comedy based, they don't do a silly thing like, oh, I'll just, wait here for Professor K-Einstein to, bury a thing and yada, yada, yada. They don't do any of those, time paradoxes. But Adventures, it's definitely a more lighthearted, like, it doesn't really focus on the thing. It is a little difficult to compare the two because it's so wildly different in tone and purpose.
Yeah,
really. And it is funny that both of them almost entirely go back to the status quo at the beginning, like, aside from the character being back that we never see again anyway. So.
Right.
Also, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I will say the Adventures one did have what was it again? Supreme High Robotnik, and that
yes,
hard to follow.
Supreme Naked Robotnik.
Yep.
For myself, I'll say, as far as entertainment, these are to me both very enjoyable stretches of episodes. As far as like which one, I think I think I handled the question wrong earlier. I really should have just asked which one did you enjoy the time travel mechanic more. And for me in this case, I'll have to say I like both, but I think SatAM just a little bit more, just because it's the surrounding context of how the show carries itself, and because it takes itself very seriously. And so the way that it plays around with time travel, which Luke said earlier, it's kind of trying to have its cake and eat it too. But I like the fact that, at least for me, when I watched the episodes, it still felt dramatic enough where like they're trying not to make too many changes to the timeline, except for making one really big change to the timeline. But I just like the dramatic element around it, and it just feels like an extra. It just feels like an extra like chunk of story that adds weight to the presence of each episode.
Yes, I see what you're saying. I'm immediately comparing like where Sally explains that like they have to be careful, especially with Robotnik around, that if anything happens to the Sonic kids, that they will cease to exist, and comparing to the incredibly silly but played for drama Masonic the Hedgehog being accidentally blocked, so Sonic disappears from reality for a brief moment in front of Tails.
That's kind of the SatAM one is like dealing with actual events that are important to the backstory of Sonic, whereas Adventures of the Sonic Hedgehog is just like, let's go back to this time period and this time period, and whoops, we're in Moby Egypt now, and it's all very
Moby Egypt.
That's it. My goodness, it's all just silly stuff that doesn't really have any relevance to the major plot, because there isn't much in Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it is appropriate for what both TV shows are.
Yes, absolutely. Those time travel storylines were the kind of time travel storylines you would have for each respective show. Can you imagine if Adventures was the one that decided to go back and deal with Sonic's like family history or something? Like directly, like his parents or some stuff, and when Robotnik took over, and SatAM was like, okay, time to go back into prehistoric SatAM times. Oh no, the humans are here! Oh, it's weird!
Oh god. Although, sorry, one last time before we end the episode, a memory of Archie Sonic, where don't they literally go back to prehistory and meet Sonog the Bog Hog? Who is
what, don't you mean a hedgehog? I've never seen any hedges around here, son. Just bogs.
God. Oh, boy.
One day.
Yeah, one day. Put it on the back burner.
Yeah, we spent a long time talking about good Archie Sonic, but Yeah, we'll get there.
He says with defeat in his voice.
Yes.
With no relish.
Palpable.
Yeah, I guess that about wraps us up. So you can find me on Twitter at CyberLink420.
You can find me on Twitter at Great Job Jeremy. That's GR and the number 8.
You can find me on Twitter and a lot of socials as Faulerro, and that's Faulerro. I got it right, hooray!
Yay! Woo! And you can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at RockTheJake.
And of course, special thanks as always go out to Amy Waters for the use of our theme song from the album Gotta Go Slow. You can of course check out more of her work on YouTube and Bandcamp. And please make sure to, like, comment, rate, subscribe, all that other good stuff for the podcast, because it does help, and we do want to kind of get ourselves out there more so we can keep doing the show.
Please do.
Yes.
Like when people would listen to this. That would be cool.
That would be nice. That'd be way past cool.
And you know what? Shout out to all the people in our YouTube videos who comment every time or almost every time. Thank you for your continuing engagement, because it truly especially means a lot to all of us. And it's just cool to know that. I mean, it's great to hang out all together and talk about this stuff, but it's also good to know people are listening, and we just want to keep growing that.
Speaking of, growing that, for next time, we're doing something. I know I say this a lot, we're doing something a little different, but we are in fact doing something a little different, because next time it's going to be our big winter holiday special.
Woohoo!
Oh man.
It's going to be so special, we're not going to actually tell you what we're doing.
But we're going to do it.
We are going to do it.
We're going to do it to it.
It's going to be a jam-packed episode that you will not want to miss, so do stay tuned for that.
A Sonic Jam-packed episode?
Mayhaps.
A juicin' and jam-packed episode.
Okay, you're pushing it now.
I'm really feeling in the holiday spirit, the festive spirit. I mean, I don't know about you, but I can feel the frost in the air around me. I can feel it all coming around. Oh man, I'm so desperate to put my fan back on. Jesus Christ, we're in the middle of the year.
Yeah. It's a balmy 100 degrees outside.
Oh, the weather outside is frightful.
But not the reason you think.
That's how far ahead we are, by the way, to pull the curtain back a little bit. And I really want to pull the curtain back right now, because, oh my goodness.
No, don't pull the curtain back. It's keeping the sunlight out and keeping the room cool.
Oh, he's burned.
You can either assume that we are recording very far ahead, or that the nuclear apocalypse has finally come for us all and has destroyed any future winters.
I can't wait till we find out together.
Which, you know what? Hey, it's cool that this episode still went out after the apocalypse.
Yeah, I queued up all the episodes. Even if we're dead, there's still going to be like 15 left to go.
That's the only record of humanity left, is Sonic the Hedgehog podcasts.
And the aliens come.
As the prophets intended. Yeah, I'm CyberLink.
I'm GameBuddy.
I'm Faulerro.
And I'm RockTheJake. And you haven't lived until you've had one of my dogs.
Oh.
2 with the works, please.
Please.
It's weird that he's a pig.
Yeah. He's a sick f***.